All right, Mike, we're back. Where you been?
Where have you been?
I've been. I don't know where I've been. It's been 3 months.
Yeah. My hair
Oh,
probably looks the same as it
all right.
did 3 months
It
ago,
does, and
with
so does
with
mine.
exactly one haircut.
Mine looks exactly the same as well. Gave myself a haircut this morning. Um, well, thank you for joining us. Take a look live. We went on a little hiatus. We redid the studio. That was the big deal,
Yes, we did.
as you can see.
And we bought some new equipment that gets us extra high quality
Right,
video.
really great new video. So we're getting back into it, and we'll get better at it. So one thing that we've been talking about a lot
Wait,
here,
what episode is this?
it's got to
14?
be 14 or 15. I think the one right before Nappy
Well-
was 14.
Well, didn't we say that there was a 13, but it was really like
Well, we skipped
14?
we skipped 13 because it's bad luck.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think this is 15.
We're not good with numbers. We're marketing.
No, exactly. Although you're an engineer, so you should probably be a little better with numbers than I am.
What way to out me on?
So speaking of
Take a look
numbers,
Speaking of,
see how I did that?
I did.
I have not lost my talent for segues.
Just
Right, that's what
only
they are.
speaking.
Right. All right. So we actually, one of the things that we've been talking about a lot here internally is HR and recruiting, because we are growing tremendously overall, and it's a huge challenge to find talent, to find the right type of people that still live the core values of your company, all of those different types of things. And so one of the things Mike brought up recently in a meeting was this newfound insertion of data analytics in HR and recruiting. And so we're going to be looking at kind of a few articles at all, and I'll actually let you kind of lead in terms of what article you want to look at first, because I can just insert that in the post. That means after the show.
Right.
That's a technical term. And so, one of the first ones that we had was from, you want to talk about the undercover recruiter one first?
Yeah. Which one was
All right,
that one?
cool. That one right there.
All right.
Yep.
Um,
So this is all about taking recruiters from I think to I know, and the understanding of, all right, this is the person that I actually want to go after,
right.
right?
Yeah, they lead off as talking about diving deep to reduce turnover. I mean, turnover was one of the common threads amongst really all the articles in that. Getting the right people on board that stick around.
Mhm.
It's much cheaper to retain someone than it is to hire someone new. I mean, if you think
Right.
about it, that's almost counterintuitive. But you think you hire someone new, and it's 6 months, 8 months before you've lost 6 months of productivity.
Mhm.
That's a huge cost to absorb.
Well, I thought one of the things that they were doing well was, and I want to talk about the keeping employees, because I'm just putting a post in this for later, that none of them really talked about using analytics to keep folks, like the people that you have.
Right.
And so I think that's an important thing. We all generate data as employees as well. What can our employers do? And that gets into a little bit of privacy and
Right.
things like that. But we'll talk about that. But the fact that they can estimate, if you do it correctly, you can estimate the amount of time it will take to fill a certain position in the city that you're in. So if you look in Austin, really, really challenging market because it's so competitive, so many great startups like ourselves, other companies looking for similar talent, whether it's a developer with Java skills or a data analyst or whatnot. And so they can actually look at all those kind of trends and determine, all right, it's going to take 3 months, 2 months, whatever it is. So then you can more intelligently build out your models
Right,
for hiring.
Right, your hiring
Because
plan.
nothing is a bigger cost.
I mean, how much time do
than
you
people.
spend budgeting, even just for our team?
Right.
Fair amount of time. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
if you factor in, it may take 3 months. I mean, how long did it take to find Kelly?
Right.
I mean, that was a long process.
Yep. Shout out to Kelly, by the way. That's
yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of shout outs on Take a Look Live.
Well,
Wow. Our new graphic designer. It's impressive.
Well,
Maybe we'll have her on the show.
Well, maybe we should. Well, yeah, we can have her on the
Be
show,
good.
and she can design
Be
like.
good if she just shows up here.
Well, we can edit that in.
Weird. Yeah, no, you're right. And finding a great graphic designer in Austin, extremely difficult. I've
Right.
done it several times, and I mean, yeah, you could hire anybody, but you got to hire the right people.
Right.
And so I thought that was kind of an interesting part of it. What were some of the kind of the data sources that you saw people using in this realm?
In terms of finding people, one thing that I found in a couple different articles that I thought was interesting, and in fact they talk about it on this one, the undercover recruiter is mining the internet for hidden gems. I mean, think about. I mean, I know
Right.
as a hacking coder, I'm Stack Overflow. I'm on Stack Overflow all the time. Mostly, I'm going in to get answers.
Right.
And so, but if you go in and find the people that are providing the answers, those are perfect candidates of people that you want on board. And then if you think about the open source community,
Yeah.
I mean, all you got to do is go troll GitHub,
Mhm.
and find the open source projects and find the people. You look at their code. Oh, like literally, you can see what they're doing that they would be doing in the job
Right.
before they even in the door. And
Yep.
by the way, you can also go find the young kids, the cheaper kids, rather than the 35-year-old
Mhm.
or older,
Right.
whatever. You can get the 22, 23-year-old
Is
kid.
35 old to you? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying 15 years of coding experience is,
Okay. I'm just wondering. That just seems
well,
interesting.
in that case, I'm getting close.
Right. This is when my fat head kind of comes out.
No, I was
That's a
gonna
whole nother-
actually roll the fat head
that's a
and
whole
like
nother
actually.
story. So flipping, on its tail, I didn't see this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see it in the articles that we're sharing with folks. But what about data being used to actually determine a bad candidate? Because I would feel like, so as soon as you talked about kind of trolling message boards, looking at social media, all of that different stuff, we obviously do that as part of our, as managers, you
Right.
want to kind of check these people out, see what they're, what's going on, etc. Are they intelligent? Are they, someone that you think could work with your team? All those things, and there's only so much you can get in an interview process, and so you want to see what they're like out in the real world.
Yeah, and
But I'd love to automate that more and give myself a scorecard, if you will.
yeah, so all right. Well, perfect segue.
Profile view.
Well, your segue there is perfect. Unintentional segues on the unintentional segue scale.
Or is it?
So on the PBS, there was a PBS article.
Yeah.
Nick Korkodillos. I'm
Mhm.
probably gonna brutally mispronounce his name. But in his article, he quoted a VP of recruiting at Xerox.
Yeah.
Where the direct quote is, "We're getting to the point where hiring managers don't want to interview anymore. They just want to hire people with the highest score." And that then sort of struck me, especially considering we face sort of the same thing on the Medicaid fraud side.
Mhm.
And hey, I just want to score. And what sort of stuck out to me in that, even from our last company in the last job,
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times we go in trying to talk about testing and making sure things are better, making sure you're getting the right fit equipment wise. And this is from a network equipment perspective. And so many times it was fighting the no one ever got fired for hiring or for buying IBM or
Right.
Cisco or HP
yeah.
or Dell or whomever that is. And we're getting back to that same point. And now the hiring managers are thinking, it's really hard to hire. No one ever got fired for hiring someone that scored a 95 on our
I see
scale.
what you're
And so
saying.
now it's
Yep.
almost becoming the automatic button, and it's the cop out.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it goes. I mean, it does. It's funny how it lends itself to everything that we do. It's one part of it's one piece of the information that you need. So it's a little bit of intelligence, but you still got to do that human side and make sure that obviously you're still going to interview these folks and bring them
Right.
in. But if you're automatically throwing people out at the beginning because
Right.
of some scoring mechanism, you may be missing folks that you should be.
Well, that
hiring.
was another point in that was actually so Peter Capelli, he was actually quoted. I guess he's a Wharton researcher. He was quoted in a couple of the different articles, and he made a point that some people may go in and look for candidates that graduated in 4 years versus 5.
Mhm.
But some of those people that took 5 years may have taken a year out to go take care of a sick mom or a
Right.
sick grandmother.
Or gone traveling for
Or
a year
traveling.
and gotten something that you can't get from
Absolutely.
being at school.
And so the one thing, this actually came up in a conversation in a meeting we were in yesterday from our fearless leader, where at one point she said something to the effect of, analytics are a great tool, but ultimately the best predictive and analytic engine is between our ears.
Right.
And it should be used as a tool, not as, the Xerox guy is talking about people wanting to use it as the push me a button and spit out the people we're going to hire, as
Mhm.
opposed to push a button and I'm going to use my best judgment to say, okay, I see that. It kind of makes sense, but
Yeah.
let me go take a look at these other things and sort of put those pieces together.
So when you look at kind of recruiting, and we look at next year, especially for our group and the hiring that we're going to do, what are the things that you want to be able to analyze quickly so that it's a more efficient and better process so that we're finding the right people? I mean, what's your dream in that realm? We know it's not an automatic score,
Right.
but is it, for me, I'll answer it instead of putting you completely on the hot seat. For me, it's before that person walks in, it's not a resume. Like a resume doesn't tell me all that much about you, right? It is a profile of what's your experience, your LinkedIn profile, maybe recommendations, maybe a sense of your Twitter feed, your Facebook, people you're connected to, potential connections we have, so links and associations there. Again, you're bordering up against privacy, and you want to be,
Right.
because I mean, man, if you just read my Twitter feed sometime, you'd probably wouldn't hire me again. So I think that people have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. But I would love that just one page look before they knock on my door, so that I'm better prepared.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important, and one thing that sort of sticks out to me, and sort of what I look for maybe is a little is a little bit different than what our development and
Right.
data engineering people,
Yeah, that's a good point.
where Capelli is quoted in another article as saying, it's funny, he got quoted in two different articles in different context, sort of contradicting himself depending on how the author of the individual article
Right.
sort of took it.
Hate when that happens.
But there was one direct quote that he had said something to the effect of, still the best predictor for how a person will do in the job is samples of of their work doing the exact same thing.
Right.
So it's almost like something that would be interesting to look at from a development perspective would not necessarily be like a test. So I've got a buddy who's a VP at a small, well, they're not so small anymore, a software company in Austin, and they make all their candidates take this like ridiculous test.
Ridiculous in terms of scope.
Like ridiculous hard, and it's
Okay.
like they take pride in so many people failing.
It's like
and,
the Wonderlic.
it almost becomes, for me, it almost becomes like an elitist. Some of our friends have tried
Right.
to go there who would have been great fits,
Mm-hmm.
but get thrown out by some ridiculous test
Right.
that some people aren't good taste. I'm sure you're probably not you may or may not be a good test taker.
You're sure
Sorry,
I'm not?
I was about to go
Wow,
there.
that was-
I pumped the
I'm
brakes
not.
a little bit.
I'm not,
Um,
but that's because I'm so creative.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So A, B, and C, D aren't how you think.
And I went to
you
a
think
college
of
that didn't accept SATs. I mean, we'll just leave that there.
probably because no one there could pass the SAT.
Oh, please.
Just
It's
kidding.
the Harvard of Maine.
That's like, never mind. I'm not even going to say what that's like. But anyway, so from
You
a
went to
development
A&M?
perspective,
Oh, no, you two. I get those two mixed up. They're like the same school,
yeah.
except one's better than football than the other. By the way, you still owe me for the bet from episode 6.
I know. World Cup. I know. I lost. Bolo tie. Yeah, you totally derailed me.
Yes.
Oh, but
Test taking.
something,
No,
yeah,
and-
but something to the effect of, on a development side, it would be completely reasonable for, say, okay, let's say a Java developer. Because
Sure.
a lot of sort of on-site interviews that are sort of coding
Well, we
focused.
did that at Breaking Point, right, for the engineers. You had to take kind of a basic test of like your knowledge of TCP/IP and all
Right,
that.
and so I would do some of that over the phone, but a lot of that wasn't necessarily related to sort of the day-to-day responsibilities.
Right.
And so, and a lot of times when these guys come in, even whether or not it's a data analyst and they're trying to like code SQL on the board or code Java on the board, I mean that's not how it works in the real world.
Right.
When you're sitting in your desk, you have a task,
Yep.
and you can use any resource necessary. So why don't I, the week before your interview, I give you a task that's somewhat related to what you might be doing here.
Mhm.
And if you got to go to Google and go copy paste code, I mean, I'm a total go to Stack Overflow and
Yeah.
get some ideas. No one expected. It's naive to expect everyone to have the answers. And you're in a room in this ridiculous situation that is never going to actually happen in your day-to-day job, and write code up on the board.
Yeah, I think there's certain obviously positions, like we just hired a writer on, seeing a writing sample makes 100% sense, and seeing an original one, in that case you don't want them copying and pasting from Google.
Well, right.
But just seeing that and going forward with that makes sense. In some other realms, I think you can start automating that a little bit too. So when we go out and we hire a writer, whatnot, I'll get 30 to 40 resumes a day, and with samples. Is there a way for me to like funnel those samples through to get some good reads on kind of how they write in
Right.
terms of our tone and all of those things?
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to do that. So
Well,
I would love.
And there's
to
also
be
the
able to
send it to whatever
funnel
service that
that
checks
down.
for
for
plagiarism,
right?
and stuff
Of
like
course,
that.
right. Throw those out, but also, do they use kind of what we call warm pronouns and stuff like that here, because that adheres to our tone, or have they written things for
Warm pronouns.
That's
That's why you don't take
RFPs and
standardized
stuff like
tests very well.
Because
you know things like-
creative.
Because you know warm
Right.
pronouns.
All right, so one last thing before we head off into the grainy sunset, in terms of what we could do better analyzing current employees to keep them. I think that's where there seems to be everyone's trying to make it more efficient to recruit and hire, yet they acknowledge in every single article that it's better to keep people. Obviously, it's cost effective and all the different benefits of that. what are we not doing? Because we know our data's out there.
Right.
We know legally a company can pretty much look at whatever, and if you don't know this, then get on the Google and start reading about it. But they can kind of look at that. Are there ways for us to make sure that we are rewarding the people we want to stay?
I mean, look at what we
through data analytics. When we can't keep our eye on everybody and our
Right.
fingers on the pulse.
Well, I mean, if you think back to what analytics fundamentally are, there's a whole bunch of information out there, and you want to pull out the nuggets of information, ask the questions that you actually care about. I mean, look what our HR team did here, which I thought was fantastic in the reevaluation of our benefits.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go have some questionnaires on what of the 15 things that we have. What are the things that you care about?
Right.
Because maybe it is in fact the free Wednesday lunch. HR shout out. That is in fact what gets people in the door or keeps people staying. That,
Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
No, it's
Oh,
Friday.
You mean today?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I could use some Chewies.
That'd be nice.
But I mean,
Chewies
but it doesn't necessarily have to be big data analytics. It can be as simple as take a survey of your 100 employees and figure out what those 100 people care about, and tailor your benefits and your packages and things like that.
And if you can find a technology that allows you to do it faster and simpler, go for it. That's a great thing, but you still got to have human eyes on it. We've said this a million times, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to say it a million more. And then finally, to wrap up, one thing you mentioned was this idea of big data and all that stuff. I sat on a panel this past week at the Intel Capital Global Summit, and one of the big things that we talked about, and there's some really much smarter than me people on this panel, chief data officer at Barclays, like just people who had lived this for a long, long time. But one of the things we all kind of agreed on was if we could all go back in time and change the name, big data, it just kills people because people get so nervous. I mean, you could see the anxiety. So there's a blog post I'm going to put out later today on the website about kind of the 3 kind of performance anxieties of big data that people can't get past right now. And one of those is the fact that it just starts with big. And people don't know what that means. It doesn't matter. That just doesn't matter. If you have 100 employees and you can survey them and get stuff out of it, it's about the end result at the end of the day. It's not really how you do it.
So should our analyst of the week be small data in that case?
Is there someone who has the Twitter handle small data?
Yeah.
Is there?
Someone we used to know very well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are we not going to say that publicly?
I think he's he
Do I have to cut this part out?
No, he doesn't go official on who he actually is.
Oh, really?
It may be small underscore data.
Oh, wow. I'm gonna have to.
We're probably gonna have to edit this segment.
Is this NSFW?
Nope, that's not. Nope, that's not her. Maybe it is.
Oh, but it is.
Oh yeah.
Because those are all people.
Yeah,
that's
him.
Following.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a guy.
Yeah, it's a guy.
All right. Well,
yeah, but he's
mystery. We'll have
someone
to figure that out.
we used to work with and
Okay.
or worked with and.
Well, whoever names that person gets a free 21CT poncho.
Do we have 21CT ponchos?
We'll have to order 21CT ponchos now.
But if someone can figure out who it is, then they deserve a 21CT poncho.
Of course, I will go and I will make a poncho for you.
Fair enough.
Awesome. All right, well, Mike, thanks for coming back and doing this. And hopefully we'll get on a better schedule and keep pumping these up.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.